All right, games are over. It's time to check my fantasy score. I mean, I know I crushed my opponent. He started Brian Robinson, Zay Jones, Garrett Wilson, Zonovan Knight. Who is Zonovan Knight? Like, come on, man. Are you kidding me? Welcome back, Endgame community. It's Chris, and today I'm going to talk about some players who shocked the fantasy community with their performances in Week 12 and let you know, was it a fluke or should we expect this to continue? Let's get into it. All right, we got to start with Brian Robinson, one of the best stories of the NFL season, coming back from being shot in the leg right before opening week, somehow getting on the field, somehow playing. But look, the whole season, Brian Robinson has been really bad by NFL standards. One of the worst running backs, in terms of yards per carry and all sorts of metrics. He has just looked like a plotter. Until Week 12, when he burst on the scene for over 100 yards rushing and even caught 2 passes, had a receiving touchdown, trucked that guy on the way to the end zone. It was cool to see. But look, are we going to believe that this is the Brian Robinson going forward or the guy we saw the rest of the season prior to this? I'm looking at this. I hate to say it. I'm a Washington fan. I want Brian Robinson to succeed. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. But I'm not going to go off of one great game versus, 7 terrible games. So I'm going to put this as a fluke for now. We'll see next week, when he plays the Giants. If he does it again, okay, I'll change my tune. But for right now, I got to put this at fluke. Is A.J. Dillon back? 8 carries, 64 yards, and a touchdown. Also caught 3 passes on 4 targets. This is what we saw from A.J. Dillon early in the season, right? The guy you felt like you could just plug in as like a low-end RB2, could help your team, had some upside. But there's reasons to be worried here because he still had less carries than Aaron Jones, who had 12. Aaron Jones also caught 3 passes, also had 4 targets, looked better in the receiving game, had a receiving touchdown. And this was the Eagles, whose run defense right now is bad, to say the least. So, I mean, maybe this week in another great matchup, A.J. Dillon is startable just because of the matchup, but he's still very risky. Again, kind of like Brian Robinson, I'm not ready to jump all into A.J. Dillon after one game like this. So once again, I'm going to have to say fluke for A.J. Dillon. And then another guy who might be back, Ezekiel Elliott. Is he not dusty anymore? I don't know. Maybe this is just a week of, forgotten running backs going off, and next week we're going to forget about all these guys again. But Zeke actually looked good. I think for the first time since 2020, he actually had 2 runs of farther than 20 yards. It's pretty crazy to think about. Even with the knee injury, even with the knee brace, he actually looked good. He looked explosive, but he hasn't looked good or explosive the whole year prior to this. So again, I'm not just going to jump all in on Ezekiel Elliott. The one good thing about Ezekiel Elliott is he's going to score touchdowns. He has 3 touchdowns over the last 2 games. He's going to get work. He's going to get touches. He's going to get carries. But again, this is the Giants. Their run defense is really bad. I can't jump all in on Ezekiel Elliott just because of this one performance. Once again, I'm going to say fluke for Ezekiel Elliott. And then, of course, everybody's favorite, Zonovan Knight. Who is Zonovan Knight? Well, he's an undrafted free agent on the Jets. And he got a chance to play because we know, of course, Breece Hall, pour one out for the season. And also, they decided James Robinson, who they traded picks for this year, would be a healthy scratch in this game. So basically they were rolling out with Michael Carter, Zonovan Knight, and Ty Johnson. And Zonovan Knight had a great game. 69 yards on 14 carries, caught all 3 of his targets for 34 yards. He looked great. And even before Michael Carter got hurt with that ankle injury, he was involved. It looked like he was going to be in the James Robinson role. Now I know Ty Johnson had a better fantasy game because he ripped off that long touchdown run, but Zonovan Knight was the guy who got more of the run, got more of the work. And look, if Michael Carter misses time, he probably is going to be the lead back here because why would they bring James Robinson back after making him a healthy scratch? So I'm going to say this is not a fluke for Zonovan Knight. I think this continues for him. The Jets have a great rest of season schedule as far as running backs go. Sure, when Michael Carter comes back, he'll probably be the 1B to Michael Carter's 1A. But look, if he keeps impressing like this, maybe he'll be the 1A. So I'm going to say not a fluke for Zonovan Knight. All right, let's move on to wide receiver. And do I have to take an L on DJ Moore? No, I don't have to take an L on DJ Moore. Come on, it's week 12. If this is your win, it's too late. But there's reasons to be optimistic about DJ Moore. 4 catches, 103 yards, a touchdown. 6 targets. And look, you say 6 targets, that's not a lot of targets, but Sam Darnold only threw the ball 17 times. He was the only guy that got targeted more than twice in this offense. And DJ Moore has actually at least been good with Sam Darnold. He's the best quarterback, as far as for fantasy that DJ Moore has ever had. So I think DJ Moore at least becomes like startable going forward now. I mean, you can't expect 103 yards and a touchdown when the guy's only catching 4 passes. But still, I think DJ Moore is at least startable now. I'm going to say not a fluke. I don't expect huge games like this week in and week out. But again, I think we see a DJ Moore that can at least be in lineups going forward. Not a fluke. And then DJ Moore needed Sam Darnold, and all Garrett Wilson needed was not Zach Wilson, because Garrett Wilson in the games with either Joe Flacco or here in week 12 with Mike White has been really good. It's only in the games with Zach Wilson that he's been bad. So really, Garrett Wilson, as long as it's not Zach Wilson, should be great going forward, or at least good going forward. Again, you can't expect him to have the game he just had, 5 catches, 90-something yards and 2 touchdowns. The guy's not going to catch 2 touchdowns every 5 receptions, unless they're named Christian Watson. Apparently he will do it, but probably Garrett Wilson not going to do it, especially in this offense, with Mike White or Joe Flacco at quarterback. But still, you got to be feeling good about Garrett Wilson now because he doesn't have Zach Wilson. That's the benefit here. He doesn't have Zach Wilson. Now, maybe, look, Zach Wilson apologized, did what he had to do. Maybe they put him back in. Who knows? But if it's Mike White or Joe Flacco going forward, you got to feel good. I'm going to assume they won't put Zach Wilson back in because they just won a game with Mike White. So I'm going to say not a fluke. And then it was supposed to be Christian Kirk week, but instead it was Zay Jones week. What? Zay Jones, 14 targets, 11 catches, 145 yards, and a 2-point conversion. But look, if you've been following along, this is what Zay Jones has been doing. 2 weeks in a row, he has double-digit targets. 2 weeks in a row, he has over 14 PPR points. And don't look now, but Trevor Lawrence is starting to look like the number 1 draft pick that he was supposed to be last year. So I think Zay Jones going forward is going to be a great weekly start. They have a great rest of season schedule for the passing game. To me, Zay Jones is now in the, kind of wide receiver 3 with upside category. So I'm going to once again say not a fluke for Zay Jones. And then it was supposed to be Christian Kirk week, but it was also supposed to be Gabe Davis week. But instead it was Isaiah McKenzie week. What? 10 targets, 6 catches, 95 yards with a touchdown. He scored more PPR points than his teammate Stephon Diggs. What is going on here? I don't know. But look, this again, it was supposed to be Gabe Davis week. It didn't work out for Gabe. Isaiah McKenzie ended up being the guy that had the big plays, the touchdown, the home runs. But I am absolutely chalking this up as a fluke because we've seen Isaiah McKenzie do this once or twice before, and then he does nothing. And look at the matchups coming up. Really, really tough pass defenses from now till the end of the season. Cannot expect Isaiah McKenzie to do this again rest of the season. I doubt he will. So definitely a fluke for Isaiah McKenzie. And then Zeke brushed off the dust on Thanksgiving Day. Did Adam Thielen also brush off the dust on Thanksgiving Day? 21 PPR points? Where did that come from? Did he even have 21 combined PPR points all season? I mean, obviously he did. I'm joking. But yeah, this came out of nowhere. But look, the Patriots obviously went into this game and said, we have to shut down Justin Jefferson. And they doubled him. And they tripled him. And guess what? They couldn't shut him down. But by doubling and tripling him, they left the other guys wide open like Adam Thielen. I mean, he's just running around single coverage against the number 3, number 4 corner. And even dusty Adam Thielen can beat a team's number 3 or number 4 corner these days. So definitely chalking this up to a fluke. We know Jefferson's the man here. Thielen hasn't been good all year. I'm pretty sure this is going to be his one great game, and then he's not going to do it again. Also, the Vikings have some pretty tough pass defenses coming up, so definite fluke for Adam Thielen. And then let's move on to tight end, and boy, do I have a couple big names for you, and let's start with Josh Oliver. Who is Josh Oliver? Well, he's the number 3 tight end for the Ravens, and he was promoted to the number 2 tight end for the Ravens because Isaiah Likely was out. And instead of all those targets going to Mark Andrews, they went to Josh Oliver. Like, why? Like, come on. He had a huge game with 4 catches, 76 yards, and a touchdown, much to the chagrin of everybody who has Mark Andrews. But look, we're not expecting this again, right? Like, come on, we don't think like Josh Oliver is suddenly the Ravens' #1 tight end and Mark Andrews is #2. Just one of those games. It happens. Random games like this happen. Absolutely, no doubt about it. Fluke for Josh Oliver. And then a name we haven't heard in a long time, Jordan Akins. And if you don't know, he plays for the Houston Texans. And I get it if you don't know because he's done nothing this year and he really didn't do anything last year either. He was kind of a trendy sleeper tight end pick last year, but it didn't work out. But it did work out this week with Kyle Allen. 5 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown. Maybe all Jordan Akins needed was Kyle Allen. Now here's the thing. Will Kyle Allen be the starter next week? I don't know. Who knows? They lost. They got blown out. They looked terrible. They looked worse than they did with Davis Mills. Will Lovie Smith go back to Davis Mills? Probably not, because that's kind of like saying, like, okay, I was wrong. Let's go back to Davis Mills. But we don't know. But still, it's Kyle Allen. It's the Texans. It's Jordan Akins. Are we really expecting Jordan Akins to be a top 10, top 5 rest of the season tight end? I don't think so. This is also 100% a fluke for Jordan Akins. Don't go running out to pick up Jordan Akins on your waiver wire, please. All right, now let's move on to quarterback. And I already talked about Trevor Lawrence, but Trevor Lawrence is here. He has arrived. Since week 9, he is the overall QB10, averaging 20 points per game, and he's had a bye in that stretch. That means he's only played 3 games. Trevor Lawrence over the last 3 games has been great. He's looking like the guy we expected when he was the overall #1 pick at QB. This kind of like generational talent coming out of college. So maybe he really has turned the corner. Maybe he's starting to figure it out, and he gets a great rest of the season schedule. There's only like 1 or 2 really tough games in there that he should struggle maybe against. But really, I think Trevor Lawrence going forward is, a top 12 QB. He should be started in all 1 QB leagues. So if he's sitting on your waiver wire and you need a quarterback, go look at Trevor Lawrence. This is not a fluke. And I also talked about Mike White, who right now, ladies and gentlemen, is your number 6 QB in week 12. That's right, Mike White is a top 6 QB right now. Over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. But look, we've seen this from Mike White. We saw last year, what do you have, that 400-yard game and a bunch of touchdowns, and then he went and played, I think it was like New England, and did nothing, and then he threw like 4 interceptions against Buffalo, and we never saw Mike White again. So, not going to get too excited about Mike White just yet. But look, this is a different situation. They have a better defense. They have more weapons. So maybe Mike White can get it done here. I'm still going to have to put this at fluke because we've been here before. We've been burned by Mike White before. I'm not getting burned this time. If he does it again next week, okay, maybe we can start talking. But for right now, he's a fluke. And then Mike White is your QB6. But did you know Mac Jones is your QB7? That's right, Mac Jones is the 7th highest scoring QB this week. He has more points than Patrick Mahomes this week. What is going on with week 12? I don't know. But look, it was Minnesota. Terrible defense. One of the worst defenses in the league as far as against the pass. And the Minnesota offense, because of Justin Jefferson dominating this defense that tried to shut him down, were able to put points on the board and force the Patriots to continue to throw. We know this is a team that wants to run as much as they possibly can. And he's got a tough matchup next week against Buffalo. I get it. Buffalo's defense is banged up. Their secondary is banged up. No Von Miller, but still, they're not the Vikings. If he does this again against Buffalo, okay, maybe we can start talking. But right now, 100%, Mac Jones' Week 12 performance was a fluke. All right, those were some of the performances that shocked us in Week 12, but who are some players that are skyrocketing as we're heading towards the playoffs? Who are the players you should start, you should sit? Who could boom in Week 13? We got you covered. Everything you need to win your matchup. Check out our Week 13 playlist right here.